Are conical fermenters worth buying, or are you better off sticking with something a little bit cheaper and easier to use? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Now, when it comes to actually managing the fermentation, back in the day, my thought process said, hey, we got to go from primary to secondary. And so we want to just be able to pull a valve, make that transfer, and we're good to go. It seemed like not having to transfer between two vessels was going to be the safer and easier pathway. But then I started realizing that in a lot of cases, there's not actually a need to transfer the beer at all. You can go straight from primary straight into package, especially if your package is going to be a keg. And so that's still one extra step that you have to do in a conical that you don't necessarily have to do using a carboy or even a bucket. So while the ease of that transfer from primary to secondary seemed really cool, when you pull that dump valve and you exit the trube and the hot material from the bottom of your conical, you're also running the risk of sucking air back into the top of your conical. So if you're not careful and don't have some way to make sure that it's a positive pressure system in the keg, you're actually more likely to oxidize beer than impress your friends, and no one's giving out medals for cardboard flavored beer. So fast forward to last year. The guys at More Beer actually sent me a Brewbuilt X2 conical fermenter, which is their first jacketed one. That's really cool for if you want to have glycol cooling your system to maintain temperature control during fermentation, or even to crash your beer at the end of it, which saves a step, which is awesome. But there was an issue with the lid being super finicky, and I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So the way they fashioned this lid is this weird circular system. It's designed to press the lid in while it's got a semi-beefy gasket right there that's supposed to be enough to make sure that this keeps positive pressure in the system. It's supposed to be good for up to 15 psi, but I tried to pressure ferment in it a number of times and noticed that if I wasn't really careful about getting enough keg lube or silicone on the gasket, it actually leaked out air. And in some cases, if we let something sit in there for too long, was also a risk of oxidation. So because of that, unless you have a lot of technical skill, this kind of fermenter can be a pain in the ass to use, and you can end up ruining some beers before you figure out the best way to do it. Anyways, it was kind of a pain in the ass. If you are a good engineering brewer, which takes a lot of experience, then it's definitely something you can get past, and it's a really wonderful system. But if you're new to brewing and you're still trying to learn all the techniques, it might not be the best thing to jump into, having to troubleshoot small mechanisms like that. But credit where credit's due, they did fix that going into the X3, and so now the X3 kind of is that top of the line, checks all the boxes, has all the bells and whistles, and is very functional. Plus doesn't have the same problems, and so it's a lot easier for newer brewers to get into that. If you're gonna be spending thousands of dollars on a conical, it better do everything, and it better do everything right with very few issues. And so it's gotta hold pressure, it's gotta be able to variate that pressure, so some form of spunding capability. It's got to be able to be temperature controlled, and it's got to have everything that you want. If it can't do everything, like a lot of these mid-range conicals can't, you're sometimes better starting off with a basic fermenter and spending all that money on package side stuff. Now, there are some of these conicals that also have the capability of pressure fermenting, and they have a lot of utility and use case. I actually do like these because their price point doesn't come in too high, but I like them for the pressure fermenting, not for the conical part itself. Honestly, in plastic vessels, the cone shape can be more of a hassle just because there's a lot of places in there that you have to clean really well, and small nicks and scratches can make them a place for bacteria to hide. I mean, look, if you want a conical and you don't mind playing a little bit of microbial Russian roulette, sure, give these a try. But cleaning these things, I'd rather clean a carboy. Naked, in the rain. Now, pressure fermenting is probably one of the best advancements in homebrewing in the last 5 years that we've all kind of gotten on board with. And some of these plastic conicals that can pressure ferment actually do a pretty good job. But here's the catch. It does a really good job if you have the technical skill to be able to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish with those. It's like trying to brew a lager without temperature control. Sure, you can do it, but unless you're a wizard, it's probably not going to work out that well. So here's my advice. Make sure that your conical checks all those boxes if you're going to spend the money. It should be able to temperature control. You should cold crash in it. It's got to hold pressure for you to do all that. It's got to have all the right valves so you can do your pressure fermenting, and it should be easy to clean. Basically, if it doesn't double as a small submarine, don't waste your money. Instead, spend your money on package side stuff like getting a nice kegerator, getting multiple kegs, getting the right CO2 set up, making sure that you have good lines and line balancing, everything like that, so that your beer serving side is good to go. Let's be honest, you're probably spending more time trying to think about how to keep cold beer on tap at your house than how it's going to ferment. So, are conical fermenters worth it? Why am I so yellow? So, are conical fermenters worth it? If you've got the cash and you've got the experience, sure, go big, go all out. But if you're brewing your first amber and you're thinking the catalyst is going to make you the next big thing in craft beer, you're probably better off spending that money on better ingredients, a solid draft system, and all the fun package side stuff that you can do. Hope that helps. Happy brewing. Cheers, and subscribe. Hey, look, also, one of the reasons that I haven't been making videos as much is I've been spending a lot of my time on making money for my family. So if you want to support more videos being made, feel free to check out links in the description below. I'll have links to our PayPal and Venmo if you want to support, hopefully, me getting into making more videos soon. Subscribe, punch buttons,